Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Delighted to be with you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Paul Richer. I run a management consultancy called Genesys Digital Transformation, and we work with travel companies in across the travel industry, helping you with your technology problems and moving forward in the industry. And I had a chat with John before this conference, and he wanted practical examples of how you can actually harness technology. So I thought it'd be very good for this session if we hear from our speakers. I'll introduce them in a minute. If we hear from our speakers about the success stories they've had in harnessing technology which has worked for their business. So that's what I thought we'd do for the next half an hour or so. So let me introduce our speakers. Sitting next to me is Didier. Didier is both Chief Information Officer and Chief Operating Officer of Rail Europe. Didier, tell us a bit about Rail Europe.
Good afternoon. Rail Europe is a company based in Paris of about 350 people in 10 countries worldwide. And what we do is provide our customers with an easy access to rail platforms so that they can buy train tickets, mostly European trains, but also in other countries where traveling by train is nice and easy. We are therefore coping with not only B2C needs, but also B2B and B2B2C requirements. On top of that, we decided to be as local as possible, taking advantage on our presence worldwide, and which means that we try to make sure that our customers are dealing with things they are familiar to, like their own language, their own currency, their own means of payment. So that's
Okay.
basically what Rail Europe is doing.
So shall we describe you as the Airbnb of European rail?
Well, kind of.
Okay, fine. Thank
Probably
you.
not as well known as Airbnb worldwide, but that's the kind of thing, yeah.
Utpal is Head of Product Innovation and Incubation, is that right, at Carlson Wagonlit Travel?
Yes.
That's a kind of title that wouldn't have been around 10 years ago. What do you do there?
Just for people who are not familiar with Carlson Wagonlit, we are a travel management company, and what that simply means is we manage travel, business travel for corporations like Facebook, Amazon, Google, etc. So my role specifically at Carlson Wagonlit is to lead new product development and innovation, and what that simply means is that we look out for technologies or startups or vendors that have a technology or a product that could either significantly enhance the value for CWT and our clients, or any technologies that could be disruptive. So we want to get ahead of the curve. So with these two focus areas, or it could even be something that gives us enormous operational efficiency. So with these focus areas, what we do is we work with technology vendors or startups and assess a degree of fit to our business, and based on that, we adopt certain technologies or products, and we go through what we call a product incubation cycle, simply meaning we scope out a use case, we establish performance metrics, and then we run a pilot, and if it scales, then we adopt the technology. If not, then we move on to the next thing.
Okay.
So that's what we do.
So if you're spearheading technology then, Utpal, in CWT, at what stage do you hand it over to the production people?
So basically, the incubation is a 4-step process, and this is actually good for any CTOs in the room. It's a lot more easier to test concepts outside of your platform because inherently the platforms are not nimble. So the development cycles are huge. So what we do is we work with third parties. We have the 4-stage process that I was describing is use case development, establishment of performance metrics, KPIs, a data simulation, and then a live pilot. At the end of, and it has to be a check mark on all of these 4 before we make a final recommendation. Typically, it's about a 6-month to a 1-year process, at the end of which we make a recommendation whether to move on or to adopt. And then we pass it on to either the solutions group, or if it's internal, we put it for production into CWT's ecosystem.
Okay, fine. And last but not least, at the end is Gunjan. He's Chief Technology Officer of the Travel Corporation. And I looked at Gunjan's business card. If you flip it over, were there 20 or 30 different businesses on
28, yeah.
20? Oh, okay, I was close. Okay. Tell us about the Travel Corporation.
The Travel Corporation is a family of travel brands, primarily focused around guided holiday, river cruising, and hotels. And I'm the CTO, and my job is to make sure getting our brands and giving them practical advice in making sure, starting from incubation, what Utpal just mentioned out, from that stage to actual production stage of embracing technology with a laser sharp focused on customer experience.
Okay, fine. And we're going to, thank you, and we're going to be talking about success stories. I'll ask each in turn. Just to put them in context, hands up between the three of you. Who's got the largest IT budget out of the three of you?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Which of the three of you has the largest IT budget?
Uh,
No volunteers, are very modest, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, you can make your own guesses there. Didier, let's start with you. Tell us about your success story.
In order to talk about the success we have made in the past years, I would like to go back to the beginning of the century, just 20 years ago.
Okay.
I'm not going further back. Back then, you have to bear in mind that most of our customers, they wanted to have an easy access to the rail in Europe, and therefore they were looking for passes because that was for them probably the easiest way to travel in Europe without having to know exactly how the network was working or how the train operating companies were working in Europe. It was mostly because of lack of information, and you have to bear in mind that since we are dealing with overseas customers, what they have in mind is what a train is in their country. And as we were talking before, I mean, the idea of taking a train in the States is a nonsense. So of course, when you have an American tourist coming to Europe, it's rather difficult to make sure that they understand what a train is. People involved in the business back then were mostly relying on a book, and I'm not joking. It was the Thomas Cook rail timetable.
How big was that?
Well, that was probably that thick.
Okay.
And you know, it's not a joke. That book disappeared only about 5 years ago. So a lot of people were still relying on that, you know, only 5 years ago. And mostly what the travel agents were doing is making sure that one train timetable could fit in with the customer's request. Today, thanks or because of internet, our customers, they know exactly what they want. If they want to go from Berlin to Krakow or from Rome to Florence, they know exactly which train to take, they know exactly how to get there. And what they expect from us is therefore as much information as possible. And now, they don't want to wait, so therefore speed and knowledge is very critical for our customers. What we have put in place, therefore, is making sure that we are able to give them a very good level of service, answering their request nearly 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. Using advantage on the fact that we are, as I said, present not only in Auckland, New Zealand, but also in Portland in the States, and having offices throughout the world. And therefore, we decided around 2010 to use a tool in order to help us to manage all those requests. 20 years ago, we were mostly dealing with a mail. And by mail, I mean, you know, the physical one, you know, the letters you put in a letterbox, you know, that was...
What are they?
Yeah, we probably forgot what it was like. We had the huge call centers, and in order to confirm the bookings to our customers, we were using faxes. Of course, nowadays, everything is real time, everything is using email. And when a customer is asking for a request, within 24 hours, we need to make sure that that customer satisfied. And by putting in place this platform, that's what we are able to do, having some of the processes started in Auckland. The process is enriched then whether in our offices in Mumbai or in Paris. And the case is closed in Chicago. And within 24 hours, our customer is satisfied. That's what we have been able to achieve, whether it's for B2C customers or whether it's for B2B and therefore travel agents. And this has therefore helped us building a strong relationship with our customers.
So what did you have to do then, Didier, to achieve that? Were you talking about building a giant database, lots of API connectivity to rail companies? Did you have to work on commercial relationships with rail companies to allow them to give access to your data, to their data?
It's exactly what the three of the items you said. So the first one was to understand exactly what our customers were willing to have. This is when you can rely on the expertise and the experience that some of our travel consultants have. We kept a lot of people who used to answer the phones, as I said, back 20 years ago. And they know quite a lot about the railway geography. They know quite a lot about the kind of requests the customers are always asking. And therefore, we were able to not only identify two big groups, the easy and quick answers we can bring to our customers, and the tricky one that needs, therefore, more expertise and more work. So, huge database, a CRM tool. We are using Salesforce to help us dealing with all the different processes we have, and making sure that everything is connected to our booking platform. So as soon as the customer is requesting something, once again, whether it's just a technical issue or some information about the final destination, we are able to relay that to a previous request, and we are able, therefore, to separate between, once again, easy and quick answers versus things that need probably a level 2 and therefore more expertise. And after that is making sure that all the people involved across our organization are able to enrich the case.
Okay, and you mentioned, you used the word we a few times, Didier. We were able to respond. Does the we include some AI-driven chatbots, or are you using human beings?
We are using a lot of human beings, but we are starting using chatbots, and we are also starting, we have a partnership with a French startup, which is called Roger Voice. And we use that for emergency chats, so that the customers can actually have the answers in their own language. So we are starting this concept for our new Russian website, which just opened this summer. And that's very interesting because it helps us once again, separating the right level of complexity into the request, and it gives us, therefore, more time to enrich the set of dictionaries and vocabularies you need to put in place, because 20 years ago, people were buying only first and second class tickets. Now, when you look at all the offers, you have business, standard premier. I could give you hundreds of names for a train ticket, and sometimes it's very complicated to explain it simply to our customers. Thanks to the tool, we are able to separate what is, once again, quick and easy versus what needs to be...
So your success story is building this big database of information and making it available.
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly.
Okay, lovely. Utpal, tell us about a business travel success story. And CWT is just business travel, isn't it?
It's primarily business travel.
But I bet you do have leisure as well.
Yeah, we do have a leisure arm as well, and we do also have a division around meetings and events space. So it's a fairly large organization. So we have actually done a lot of work around AI, and there are, again, it's a vast term. It can literally mean anything and everything. So the specific use cases that we have implemented and tested and implemented at CWT is one involves the use of chatbots, naturalized language processing, and the other is around predictive analytics. Actually, we have two around predictive analytics, and I'll talk a little bit about both of them. So with chatbots, we ran a pilot, a couple of pilots, whereby you would take off the most non-value creating task from an agent and give that to a bot. So for example, if you need to make a change to an itinerary, these are things that are not necessarily generating value, but someone needs to do it, so a bot can do that effectively. Or if it's a very straightforward transaction, book me a hotel room in Minneapolis from January 4th to 6th, a bot can gauge the intent that you're asking to book a room, in which case book is a verb, as opposed to book as a noun. So the bot has to be able to tell the difference between the two, and then throughout the conversation, it has to make sure that it's the response that it's generating captures the intent of not just the most recent dialogue, but also there's continuity in the dialogue. So, so we implemented this chatbot, and we've actually had pretty robust results. One of the performance metrics that we wanted to test is what's going to be the what we call the adoption rate. So essentially, a bot is a channel for people to book a hotel, just like a mobile app is or a website is. So we wanted to see how far along are people in accepting this as a valid channel. So we have about almost a 50% engagement rate with the bot. So this could be a simple response to the bot sending you a notification like, I see you have a trip coming to London, you have booked the air, but I don't see a hotel room. Did you want me to make a recommendation? So you could say, yeah, show me a hotel, or you could say, no thanks, I'm already booked, or you could say, I have a hotel room in London, but can you book me a hotel room in Paris for the following meeting? So either of these scenarios is engagement with the bot, so you're talking to the bot. And then the other chatbot application that we piloted was around a hybrid bot. So a bot essentially is only as intelligent as you make it to be. So bot cannot cover a scenario that it's not been programmed for. For example, if you have a bot that can help you book a hotel room and flights, and you ask it, hey, can you order pizza for me? The bot doesn't know what to do. Or you could ask the bot anything. So in all such instances, we have a product that's a hybrid, whereby every time a bot is unable to answer a query, it kicks it off to an agent in the back end. The agent quickly triages it, and if the agent has to solve it themselves, they do it. If not, then it triages and passes it on to the bot. All this is happening in the back end, and the user does not know when which part of the response is the bot, the machine-generated response, and which part of the response is human-generated response. So it's a seamless experience to the user. So that's one application where we've done quite some work. The other is around predictive analytics. So basically, we have the ability now. When I say we, I'm not just talking about CWT generally in the industry. With the use of GPUs and computation, we can crunch vast amounts of data. So the work that we have done around predictive analytics is one around predicting the likelihood of your flight being delayed or canceled up to 16 hours ahead of your trip. So it has huge impact, especially where in geographies where weather is extreme. For example, Northeast United States, where flight delays between January and March are pretty common. So if you're given a heads up 16 hours ahead of your trip that, hey, there is a high likelihood that your flight is going to be delayed or canceled, did you want us to give you a recommendation for an alternative flight? Not just that, and also give you the ability either to book on the spot or give you consultation on that. So you have the peace of mind that someone is monitoring my trip, so I'm not going to be stranded at the airport should a disruption happen. The other use case that we implemented around AI is actually the speaker in the previous panel mentioned there's a company called Hopper out of the United States. They built this tool which can predict airfare volatility. So believe it or not, we've actually implemented that about a year ago with an in-house development with a third-party vendor where we can predict airfare volatility. So what that helps us do is because we can predict what's the low point of the fare on any particular itinerary, we can delay ticketing to match that low point in the fare for itineraries where there's a very strong likelihood of the flight dropping between the time of booking and the time of travel. There's a lot more that I can talk about the AI, but in the interest of time, I just wanted to talk about these 3 use cases.
Okay, and then the success of those presumably is a combination of increased customer satisfaction and increased business efficiency?
Yeah, so it's mostly, so CWT, we almost have like a fiduciary responsibility to our clients, so that's who we cater to. So our goal is to make sure that we work in their best interests, and these companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year on travel. So even a 1% gain in efficiency or pricing is a huge amount. So that's one part. The other is also around traveler satisfaction. So if as a business, if you're 16 days out of the month on the road or 10 days out of the month on the road, it does help you to prepare better. And even at the time of booking, if you know a flight X has a higher likelihood of delay than flight Y, you might make the right choice at the get-go. So yes, traveler satisfaction is one of the KPIs that track very highly on this.
Okay, okay. Gunjan, tell us about your success story. And before you start, everybody, after Gunjan's success story, I might ask you if you've got any questions for our 3 panelists, so think about those. Yeah, please.
I would actually take what these 2 gentlemen said here and extend it to the entire travel life cycle. So at the time you are thinking about buying a holiday, how does personalization, not just on your digital platforms and supported by AI, let you plan your next dream destination. So using CMS's technology, we as a company have invested heavily in a platform called Sidecore, lets you personalize your digital experience on your website, making it relevant for that particular engagement. When you come back, you can kind of further target and tailor it to the intent of what your browsing behavior is. But not just leaving it at the website, how do you take that and extend it to the social platform? How can Tom in the previous panel mentioned about Instagram for travel, but until the time that is built by some smart people, how can we take existing Instagram, put some vision AI on top of it, and merchandise an experience you see on Instagram overlaid with the product we offer as a company. So many of our brands have taken that approach on not just having a great website, which is mobile and all of those good things, but putting a layer of intelligence on top and making sure it's relevant for the interaction the customer is looking for. Now, it doesn't stop there. That's kind of helping you push people down the funnel and making that actual purchase. We are in the business of guided holidays, and we do realize, yes, it is group travel, but every person in that group wants a personalized in-destination experience. We saw in the slides earlier that in-destination experience, immersing yourself into the local places you go to is top of mind of today's traveler. So how do we have our legacy platforms, which run all of these group tours, be able to personalize these trips for when travelers are in that destination? To take Rail Europe's example, what we had to do was take a legacy application and build what I call a cloud-first microservices architecture with the flexibility of API first. So you still are keeping the legacy, but able to capture personalization of the individual guests without having a limitation of what would have been a problem in the past. And the third thing to add to that is we talk about this golden record or single customer view all the time. And I think that's very important for a travel company to have the right CRM and have the right data, you can call it governance around what data you capture for your travelers, making sure you know who is traveling with you, and all the good stuff around personalization can then be layered on to first knowing me as an individual, and then having an experience which is individual, which is very, very personalized to my preferences and what you know about me to take it forward. So a few of our brands have already kind of successfully delivered it, and there is a very thriving partner ecosystem who, in the interest of time, I won't go into details, but you could work with to kind of get you started on this journey.
Okay, and then Gunjan, you mentioned personalization, which is a very now topic. This is 2018, 2019's favorite topic, and you're doing it. Have you got any metrics you can share with us on the difference it's made to, I suppose, look-to-book ratios or?
Yeah, I think it's more around engagement. I think personalization is, and I'll take an example of a youth travel brand which is part of the group, and probably the two metrics which we have really seen a growth in is engagement on their social platforms and time on website actually increasing, because the content in front of people is very relevant to what they're trying to do at that part of the journey. But end of it all, it is about helping conversions, and
yes.
and our initial results are that it will help in increasing conversions as people go down the funnel.
Okay, because the two things that would help conversions, but also should be making your website more sticky because you're delivering
Yes.
content people want to see.
Yeah.
Yep. Who'd like to ask a question of our panelists? We've got a few minutes for that. Anyone put their hand up? No, okay, well listen, while you're all thinking. Oh, John, you want to ask a question? What would be very useful if you're asking a question is if you can tell us who you are, where you're from, be lovely, thank you. Just put your question in context.
Hi,
Thanks,
I'm
Guy.
Vincent from France.
Okay.
Just in the discussion, we were mentioning chatbots, and I heard that in your approach, you were saying that chatbots and humans are not distinguished in the user experience, and that actually the user cannot realize who is talking to him. Do you have a good success with this strategy, or do you have shortcomings? What's your feedback on this?
That's a good question, Utpal. Yes, I was wondering whether there's much of an error rate. Actually, chatbots are saying the wrong thing. So interesting to hear about that. Thank you.
Yeah, so actually that's a very good question, and thanks for asking. So for those of you who are not familiar with how chatbots work, so please allow me like a few seconds to explain. So chatbots use something called a piece of technology that's called a natural language understanding technology, and what that simply means is the bot has to be able to tell what your intent of the conversation is. As I said earlier, you could say, bring me a book, in which case book is a noun, or you could say, book me a room, in which case book becomes a verb. And humans understand this very easily, but machines don't understand this thing very easily. So the bot has to be, so the technology has to be robust enough to understand at every point what is being asked of it, and if it has the answer, if it has the right answer for you. So the specific question that you asked is what's been our experience with this hybrid bot. Now again, the technology, this is a part of what we call machine learning technology. What that simply means is every time the bot gives an answer which is wrong or is not able to understand the question, in which case it kicks it off to a human agent, it is learning from its own behavior. So any subsequent question that gets asked around the same thing, the bot will be able to answer. So it's a matter of iterations. The more iterations you have, the more time you have, the more data you have, the more robust the bot becomes at understanding the scenarios. So we did have a fair bit of success with this. Actually, the results were very impressive, especially, as I said, one of the metrics was the traveler satisfaction or the user satisfaction. I mean, to a user, it really doesn't matter. As long as you're getting the answer you want as quickly as you want, it shouldn't really matter to the user who's providing the answer in the backdrop. So one of the other metrics on this was operational efficiency. As I said, travel is still one of those verticals where there's a significant amount of human intervention in servicing either a query or a reservation, and a lot of these are not value creating. So if you're taking that non-value creating task out of the human's hand, let the machine do it, then you can have humans do more, indulge in more value-creating activities. That's overall good for you.
Thanks, Utpal. Let's take another question. Yes. Perhaps you can tell us who you are,
Hello.
where you're from, please.
John Pickles from Capdio.
Hi, John.
TT227, if you want to come and see us. Just a very quick question about trust. In travel, the brand is everything. You know, your brand is sacrosanct. And if you're going to hand over customer engagement to a chatbot, are you not scared that that's going to, tarnish your brand in any way?
Didier, sorry.
Yeah, so
let me Yes, I was going to ask Didier the question because he's got so much information that he needs to be in a position of trust. And then, sorry, then we'll come to you, yes.
That's a very good point, and that's the reason why most of the time companies are reluctant to put everything into chatbox. The way we have done it is it's a tiny bit cheating in the sense that through the contact us page, depending on whether it's something with a very narrow kind of request and therefore very narrow kind of answer the customer is expecting, like how do I print my ticket? You don't need to have a human being behind. As soon as you have a trickier question, then we switch to human beings exactly for that, because we need to make sure that the quality of the service we are delivering is perfect for, as you said, brand recognition issues. Yeah.
Fine. Gunjan, yes.
I think our approach to that is, and as I think John mentioned there, is trust. And we definitely want to make sure that the bot does not impede in that. So transparency is what we do in this area, is tell people you're talking to a bot, and when you transfer over to a human, tell the same thing, that this bot...
Just be transparent about it.
And I think that's very important when it comes to the brand trust.
Lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're up against lunchtime here, so let me just say thank you very much to Didier, Utpal and Gunjan. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And thank you.